Champion 4000 generator, 3500 continuous watts, model number 46596. We've talked about this before. It's been in-op before, and we've been able to get it running by cleaning out the carburetor. We had the stuck needle valve, stuck float. We've had other issues with the carburetor and the fuel flow. And despite our best efforts to do all the things to keep the clean fuel in here and drain out the carburetor and do all the things, it's still in-op. And it was inoperable during the most recent hurricane, which was a bad deal. So luckily we had another generator, but that's a different story. I decided we're gonna do a carb replacement. And I'll show you just kind of briefly what it actually does. So engine switch is on, set to choke, fuel valve is on. So obviously we're getting a spark. You can hear it'll fire up, but it will not maintain a sufficient fuel supply to keep running. So we've had a lot of luck in the past with small engines by just replacing the carb. You can clean them out, you can try to replace parts, but at the end of the day, once you start that grime, that crud, that corrosion build up in there, it's hard to fight from that point on. So we took a chance and we got this kind of El Cheapo off of Amazon from you know where. So it's just, so we got some gaskets. We have fuel hose, choke actuator lever, and here is a peek at the brand new carburetor itself. So we're going to go ahead and walk through this briefly, step by step, the replacement. So let's get the camera down here and check it out. Okay, first thing we're going to do is shut off the main fuel supply. This is the fuel hose that comes down to the side of the carburetor here, which is behind this air filter assembly. You can see here's the air filter assembly, and there is the carburetor. So we're going to go ahead and start draining the fuel and taking off the filter assembly, and then 2 bolts will remove, or 2 nuts that is, will remove the actual carb. Pretty simple setup. So on the side of the carb here, you can see there is a bolt. There's actually 2 bolts on the underside of the carb. The one that's kind of going at a 45-degree angle is your fuel drain plug. It's conveniently both a 10mm bolt and it has a Phillips socket on the bottom of it, so you can use a screwdriver. The other one removes the actual fuel bowl. We don't need to do that because we're removing the whole carb, but that is also a 10mm bolt. But we're just going to go ahead and remove the plug. We have a bottom of an alcohol bottle that I cut out with a knife as a tiny little drain pan. You can see the bowl actually started to rotate a little bit there, because it wasn't very tight. And we're going to get a little bit of gas on our fingers. Alright, now we're just going to go ahead and kind of finger tighten this back in there just so we don't lose it. We're going to want to keep this carb even if the new carb works out, just for basic parts, and I haven't given up complete hope of not repairing it. Taking the cover of the air filter assembly off is simple. We're going to move this choke actuator out of the way. Just lift up on the little clamps, and you just kind of finagle it out of the way there, like so. Hopefully we're getting enough light here. I'm going to go ahead and take out the air filter itself, and it will reveal the 2 nuts in there that you will have to take to get the carb off. But first we have to take these 4 screws off right here, which is both, I believe it's like an 8mm wrench, but you can also use a Phillips. Alright, So once those screws are out, you can just pull it out accordingly, exposing the two 10mm nuts. This time, we are going to use our newish 1/4" drive Craftsman ratchet, which a lot of people really like to poo-poo, but it's been working pretty well. Now, there's a couple of vent hoses here. You can see right here. These simply just pull out. And then you can remove the air filter housing. Here, of course, is the fuel line with the little clamp on it. I like to use duckbill pliers. I'm going to use these here Craftsman duckbill pliers, which I've had for literally almost 20 years, probably longer. And we can pull out the fuel hose and kind of finagle that, stick up somewhere, or let it fly out and spill fuel all over the place. Here we go. You probably noticed as that happened that the choke lever just simply flew out. It just sits on top like so. See that there? You can get down in the groove right. And it actuates the choke. We can just pull that out. And then we have the throttle linkage and spring, which I'm just going to grab with a pair of needle nose pliers. Here's these also 20-year-old needle nose pliers. So I simply just grab and gently lift those out. And then you can pull out your entire carburetor. Do a quick inspection, check for sameness. Looks like this one might have an added adjustment here. This new one, that's interesting. Being that we did get some new gaskets with the kit, it's probably not a bad idea to just go ahead and replace them. Since we do have them, we'll see how badly this is stuck on here. Yeah, it's stuck on pretty bad. I gotta get a razor blade. Alright, now that we got that old gasket off, which was stuck on there and a pain in my butt to get off, we have the new gasket on. You're going to slide carburetor on and provide a new gasket for the side that mates up against the air filter housing. Alright, at this point, guys, I'm going to make a little kind of intrusion into the video and save some people some time if they're following along so they don't make the same mistake. Make sure you put on your choke lever assembly, either your new one or your old one, they're probably both still good, before you put on your air filter assembly. Otherwise, it's going to be very challenging to get it on there. Let's see, does it like this one more? Likes the new one more. Another thing too, it is also wise to put on your fuel line and your linkage, your throttle linkage, before putting the rest of the assembly in. I find it is much easier that way. Throttle linkage. Now we'll go back to installing the filter assembly, but not before using my duckbill pliers to put the fuel line clamp back on. Back to air filter assembly. air filter holder. We'll put our vent hoses back in.
At this point in the video, after all this effort, I actually lost the connection to my microphone. But what I'm doing right here is turning on the fuel valve after reinstalling the carburetor. I did end up starting the generator at this point and it did run, but I lost the audio footage, so it's now the next morning. So what I'm gonna do is demonstrate to you that this does now in fact run. It doesn't really run perfect, but it does start. So I think we got a little bit more tweaking, and maybe we'll give it a tune-up, a new air filter, an oil change, and a new spark plug. But just to prove that it is now running with the new carburetor, we're gonna go ahead and start it up. Engine switch is on. Fuel valve is turned on. Choke is on. You can hear it's a little choppy. I just turned the fuel valve off. So at this point, we're just gonna let it die from its fuel starvation. But that's it, a running generator, $18 carburetor from Amazon.